Livid Dagger and Shadow Fury are two of the most popular weapons used in mid-game dungeons, but which one is actually better? Well, in this video, I aim to find that out, since I'll be comparing every single aspect of the Shadow Fury and Livid Dagger against each other to see which one is actually the better weapon. So without further ado, let's get into it. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the cost and how hard it is to obtain each weapon. Both the Livid Dagger and Shadow Fury are obtained on floor 5 of the Catacombs. However, the Livid Dagger has a 1 in 95 drop chance from Obsidian chests, while the Shadow Fury is 1 in 380 chance in Bedrock chests. This naturally makes the Shadow Fury much more expensive than the Livid Dagger, with the Shadow Fury costing about 44 million coins for a clean one on Auction House, compared to a Livid Dagger which only costs about 7 million coins. Which means the Livid Dagger is a lot more cost friendly and easier to get. But what about the damage? Well, when doing a damage test, the Livid Dagger does about 330,000 damage to graveyard zombies on average, and the Shadow Fury on the other hand does about 500,000 damage on average, meaning the Shadow Fury wins in damage per hit by around 170,000, which is a lot. However, it is important to consider that the Livid Dagger does have 50% extra attack speed, which means you will get more hits and on a single target when using a Livid Dagger, with use of a Shadow Fury and Livid Dagger actually having similar DPSs overall. But I would still prefer the Shadow Fury in general for DPS, because one-shotting most things is still going to be quicker than having to quickly two-tap enemies with a Livid Dagger, even with its extra attack speed because of the damage immunity frames, which is essentially what leads to the cooldown you have each time you strike an enemy before you can strike again. While the Livid Dagger does reduce damage immunity frames significantly, it's not enough to be more efficient than a Shadow Fury that can one-shot an enemy, but it is enough to deal similar amounts of damage when used against an enemy with a high amount of HP that's not one-shottable like a Slayer for instance, which considering the Livid Dagger's cheap price is really good. Next, let's look at each weapon's abilities. Starting off with the Livid Dagger, its first ability just throws the dagger at whichever enemy you're looking at, with a 5-second cooldown each time you use it, which isn't terrible but it's not really too useful in most situations, especially because it costs 150 mana. However, Livid Dagger's second ability is a passive ability that is a lot more useful because it makes the Livid Dagger deal 100% more damage when attacking an enemy from behind, which is really good for dealing tons of damage extremely quickly. However, there isn't really too many instances where you could just go behind an enemy without it already attacking you from the front, so it's not really completely overpowered, but it's still really good. Moving on to the Shadow Fury's ability, what its ability does is teleport a user behind 5 random enemies in quick succession, with the game just auto-hitting each enemy when teleported to them, which is actually a pretty cool ability and also really good when paired with a Livid Dagger unironically, but it does have a 15-second cooldown. So overall, for the ability, I'll say the Livid Daggers is probably more useful, but the Shadow Fury is a lot more fun to use, I will admit. Moving on to how well these weapons clear in dungeons, I would say the Shadow Fury undoubtedly wins in efficiency, because it gives a bunch of extra speed while in dungeons, and also its ability can be quite useful as well for clearing, especially when trying to find the last bomb in a room. And also, in the museum, the Shadow Fury does give 8 Skyblock XP if you donate it, compared to the Livid Dagger which only gives 6 Skyblock XP. And the Shadow Fury does have a much higher museum value than the Livid Dagger as well, because it's a lot more expensive. So I guess that could be a factor you could consider as well. So in the end, which weapon is better? For pure utility, I gotta give it to the Livid Dagger because of its similar damage output yet way cheaper cost. However, I will say that if you can afford it, I would personally actually still choose a Shadow Fury because of its higher museum value and also because it's just a more fun weapon to use in my opinion, because of the extra speed it gives and because of its ability. Overall, I would rate the Shadow Fury an 8 out of 10 and the Livid Dagger a 9 out of 10 because they're both honestly really solid berserker weapons. That's it for the video today. If you enjoyed, please consider subscribing because I'm currently trying to hit 100 subscribers, and if you do, just know I greatly appreciate it. But that's all from me. See ya.